sex is never very far away from your songs, is it?
Well, that's an interesting subject, you know. And I always like to, what do the French say? Faute de mieux, for want of a more attractive alternative, you know, if I go see a show or I'm listening to something, I don't like the pity poor me songs. And I don't like the bombast kind of thing, you know. I've got something to tell you, you know. So in the meantime, left with a point of view where you kind of, it's a personal conversation between me and an audience, you know. I'm not assuming they're a mass or anything. And so the subject matter usually ends up trying to be humorous and kind of like the news, you know, how it's like this, isn't it, you know. And of course the other element is that when I'm writing, the most important thing for me is that the words are singable. So I'll write lots of nonsense as long as it sounds right, yards and yards of it with the right sound in words. Stick it in the Macintosh, fiddle around with it, and then I'll get 3 lines that come together and go, oh, well, that makes sort of sense. Let's flesh it out a bit and just keep fiddling with it until I get it so that it's singable. It's really important on slow ballad songs, and then to get a percussive quality in the faster songs and fiddle with the key so that it convinces at least me when I listen to it.
So there you are, seated before a computer then. So this doesn't sound very rock and roll.
It's not rock and roll. I don't care for rock and roll and its excesses. Well, a few years back, I was writing on a computer as well. And I got so precious about the information that I'd put into the computer and the sounds that I'd generated for the thing that it got a bit out of proportion. And I decided this time round to leave the lot in storage and wrote the whole album on an acoustic guitar. But with the method I was mentioning about writing lyrics, you go through piles and piles of legal pads, writing yards of stuff, and then if you want to juxtapose certain bits together, you get the scissors out and chop this up and put it next to it. It's a lot easier on the screen.
Around the time of Addicted to Love in that video, there's a fair amount of criticism from feminists about that.
Oh, you mean female chauvinists?
Yeah. I mean, do you think that was justified? Did you have to defend your position there, or what?
No, it makes me want to twist the knife even deeper, you know. I think that in context, there was nothing overt about it at all. And it was obviously a camp, tongue-in-cheek thing. And I don't hear this stuff, so what could be levelled at it? Was it demeaning to women? Give me a break.
Now, Change His Ways. I was really surprised to hear that song and to hear you yodeling.
Yes, so was I.
That's unbelievable.
When the engineer heard me yodeling, he said, they're going to revoke your Swiss citizenship. I don't know. I have no idea why I did that. And recently I just did some shows, live shows in Hollywood, and I wouldn't recommend yodeling to a grown man in public. It felt so silly. But the song is silly. I've never yodeled before, and I did it in one pass. I've never done it, right? The microphone's there, we're recording, okay. And when it got to that bit, I yodeled. And when I finished the take, there was this silence. And I said, all right? Nobody said anything. I walked into the control room and they're all looking at me like, really strangely. I had a lot of difficulty with the song because I liked the melody and the basic idea of it. But I couldn't stop it being a reggae. And I didn't want to do a reggae. It didn't seem to suit the humour of the words. So I took a bit here and a bit of Soweto, a bit of Arcadian, a bit of... Where does yodeling come from? I can't remember. And once I'd found a way out of it being a reggae, then it had the right sense of humour for me. I'd finished recording the album. I was in the middle of mixing, and I had a commitment to promote the song Sweet Lies for Ireland, which took me back to Europe. And I had a couple of days off and went home, and I was out having dinner with my family. And in the middle of the meal, this song popped into my head, and I thought, wow, it'd be good to do that. So I rushed home, dug through my collection, found this tune, played it, transcribed the lyrics, which didn't make any sense. I had to rewrite them. Got on the phone, said, I've got to cut another one. Get the band together. I'll be there day after tomorrow. Got there and did the whole thing in 36 hours. And it's a song by the Gap Band. I think it's done about 8 years ago. And I just had an instinct that it'd be a great tune to perform live. You know, a great mood thing. And during the shows that I did recently, I was playing to an audience who hadn't heard any of this material. And there's no better yardstick for knowing what effect the songs have than an audience, especially if they're not pre-hyped up to hear the favourites, you know. And it went down a storm, and here it is early in the morning.
You mentioned your family. What is your family?
It
how many
consists
children?
of a wife and two
Good
children,
start.
one with and one without. He's 10, she's 8. And they're both speaking Italian now, and they still miss the Bahamas. I intend to take them back there soon, so I think my daughter misses her horse, Tuppence. And it's not the environment that they miss so much. I think it's a nostalgia, you know, for more carefree days. They're going to a big school now. And the idea of Switzerland is like it's cold and mountainous. In fact, where I live is overlooking a lake in some woods. I've got a pool. It's mostly sunny. It's warm, you know, it's very nice. So it isn't as if I was concerned it was a repeat of my own childhood, where I lived a fairly idyllic existence in Malta in the Mediterranean till I was 10, 11 years old, and then was suddenly transported to the bleakness of Leeds, and it was like, Mom, Dad, why are you doing this to me? So it's not that rough on them. As I say, I think it's an imagined past. I think if I take them back there, they'll soon readjust.
I mean, the UK now is a pretty favourable place from a tax point of view to be. Any thoughts about maybe coming back?
Is it? Where did you read that? No, I only got out of the red 18 months ago. I've never had a tax problem. I went to America initially to work with American musicians. Then I went on holiday to the Bahamas. This is while I was living in New York, and found I could work a lot better in the solitude of that place than in the craziness of a city where I have little self-discipline. So that was an ideal working spot for me, and an idyllic place for the children to grow up. It's only since the recent trouble in the Bahamas that I moved, but I'd planned to move anyway on account of the children's education. There's not much beyond the age of 11. There's not much facility over there. So I'm not out of England for tax reasons. I'm in a fortunate position that I don't have to be where my work is. I can choose where I want to live for other reasons, you know. I was at home writing tunes with the guitar, and I came up with this wow, it's really happening. And my mother heard it, and she said, "Oh, that's the bridge to what's?" I said, "It's not the bridge to anything. I've just written it." No, wait a minute. Let me call your father. So they called me back. Listen, and they played me Peggy Lee over the phone, singing "It Could Happen to You." I'd even written it in the same key. So I don't know. I must have heard it when I was a tot, and it stuck with me. but it was a big disappointment. I thought I'd caught a winner. Anyway, I still did it, even though I didn't write it.
Yeah, I made a note on that one. I thought it's very sort of... do you remember that Harry Nilsson album that he did?
Yeah.
It's very much that sort of feel about it, which is another side to you, isn't it, in a way?
Well, I've always wanted to attempt songs where essentially there's no histrionics at all. There's no backbeat even. And it's such thin ice doing ballads like that. You know, there's the Vegas problem, or just to tell a story right and get the sentiment across and re-illuminate that tradition rather than wallow in nostalgia with it is a thin line. So by the time I'd arranged the song, I was content with it as a four-piece. And then I had the string arranger do his work on it. I sent him my quartet arrangement, and when I flew out to see him and he played me his arrangement and said, "Is that okay?" I was so in awe of what he'd done that I threw everything I'd done away and just left it as strings and vocals. It just seemed to capture exactly what I was trying to get at with the tune.
Almost the same thing could be said for Between Us, in a way. You get the feeling that would be a lovely love song from a movie or something.
Between Us is my favourite song on the album. Not because it took me longest to write, which it did. I had it for ages as an instrumental. And I'm a big fan of João Gilberto, the Bossa Nova singer. The problem with it I had with it was getting the vowels right, because in the Portuguese language all the sounds are so open, and when you translate back into English it loses a lot of its romance. And because of the way the song's structured, it needed very few words, and again I didn't want it to be too sugar sweet, but I wanted it to be tender, and so it took a lot of fiddling with. Some of the tunes, particularly the ballads, when you start out to do them, you have a very specific mood in mind and something you want to achieve. And it's a sort of abstract until it becomes a reality when you can hear it out of the speakers. And when you get close to it and get it right, it's very, very satisfying, because there isn't the physicality in it that there is in a rock thing or a thing with an upbeat tune. So it's a very different point of view singing those kind of songs and being convincing with them. The rock stuff is like, I cut my teeth on it, but I was brought up listening to Lena Horne, Peggy Lee, Nat King Cole, Billie Holiday, and would sing these songs while I'm traveling, in the shower, that kind of number. And when you actually attempt to sing them with no means of support, nothing to hide behind, it's a very different issue. And I remember halfway through some of these thinking, oh, you could put a bit much on your plate here. But I'm very pleased with the way they've turned out.
So it's like Robert Palmer, the crooner there. He's been waiting to get out all these years.
That's it. Well, there's lots of other aspects to it. I feel that it's impossible to convey a certain depth of emotion without having felt it. So you have to have had some emotional experience to convey that particular thing you're after. And it sort of strikes me as unconvincing when the singer and the lyric content are obviously at odds. And also there's the other aspect where it's a form of exploration for me, in that I like to sing a lot, so I intend to keep singing, and I assume that the baby boom, the audience that's been there when I was starting out is still there. It's still the majority of people, so everybody's experiencing these things, and it's nice to have a vehicle to express them, and I'm sort of trying to grow into it, There is one yardstick that I have. How would it be to perform this song? What sort of mood is this going to strike in a big room? And so sometimes I'm tentative about how far I'll go with a certain kind of music in that I need to get some feedback from an audience to see how it feels. A couple of years ago when I was on the road behind a rock song, Addicted to Love, in the same set I was singing Bossa Nova songs with trio arrangements in Portuguese and singing Riptide, the standard from the 30s, in Arkansas in front of 10,000 people. And I'm waiting for, yeah, rock and roll. It never happened. It was like, oh, this is the show, this is this guy, he's singing these songs. What did they care? It was my problem. So I just like to keep making the space for me to be able to sing a lot of different kinds of songs. And I think that's perhaps why it's taken me so long to establish anything, is there's so little continuity between what I do. One song comes out, it's this way, the next one comes out, I still see people in the audience nudging each other during the set and go, oh, it's him that does this. They know the songs, but they don't know it's the same guy that does them.
Because this album is so varied, isn't it? So many different things in it.
Yeah, when I've attempted to run a broad range of moods in the past, even I've accused myself of making a bit of a K-Tel record. So this time out, I try to keep it, the breadth of material is even wider, but by keeping to the same rhythm section, by finding a versatile enough set of musicians that could convincingly play a swing song, an overt pop song, a heavy metal song, an R&B song. It gave it a coherence, and they were all basically quartet arrangements. And I juggled with the keys enough, and even though, as I say, this material's more varied than I've attempted before, and less tentative about doing that, it seems more coherent too. I guess it's the experience of putting this range of material in live shows for the past 4 years or so. And the opportunity to be able to do so and be known as a singer that sings lots of different songs, for me, it's just fabulous.
Palmer, chat with him, and tracks from his brand new album called Heavy Nova. Songs we played, the one that's been out as a single, Simply Irresistible, Change His Ways, Early in the Morning, It Could Happen to You, Between Us, and the last one, Tell Me I'm Not Dreaming.